While I'm not a pro by any means, I feel like I got a lot of credibility when it comes to spikes. So today I decided to rank them all. The crunchier the effect or the stronger the knockback feels, the higher it's gonna be. However, it should also be feasible to land. If it's a spike that we rarely see because of the strictness of the timing, or if it kills you in order to land it, it's not going to be that good of a spike. At the same time, if it's undeniably broken, I'll probably put it pretty high up. So overall, the spike is going to be ranked based on if it feels nice, if its risk for attempting is worth the result, and if it's swag. So with this in mind, we advance. First, we start with the cringe tier, which has the most embarrassing spikes in the game and are not worth going for almost ever. Okay, here we I don't think this one even counts. Not sure I went for these grounded spikes or cringe. Let's move on. Mega Man reflected up air. I have to add reflected specifically there because this move does not spike normally. No, it takes a lot of dumb luck. Like maybe if it were an incredibly strong spike or even had a satisfying noise, it'd be a slightly higher, but no. The animation even looks wonky, just tornado going down. Yeah, this one definitely belongs this low. Ganon side B is next, and no, I'm not talking about Ganon side, I'm talking about this. Yep, that's a spike. It doesn't work on the edge of the stage since the opponent insta-grabs a ledge. No, you gotta do it on some moving platform or on a stage with no ledges. In short, it's ass, not satisfying since it's super weak and you'll probably never land it intentionally. On one hand, the K. Rool up smash spike has the stupidest hitbox and timing in the game. While Marth and Lucina have a 1 frame spike hitbox as well, at least you can visually see where you're supposed to hit it, you know, at the tip. K. Rool? Fuck if I know, just at some random point where he falls here. Dumb, awful, one of the worst moves I've ever had the displeasure of landing. On the other hand, it's pretty hype if you land it. Not hype enough that it's worth it though, and not hype enough that it's not bottom 5. I hate how Pyra up B is considered a spike. I could probably breathe downwards and have more knockback than this move. Weak as hell, you will die first every time. If you go for this move, you can't even clutch a dub with it. It's just a bad spike. Me Brawler Onslaught is stupidly specific in how it spikes. Because it's so specific and has a tiny hitbox, it's pretty overall. And it's also weak as fuck, so not even rewarding if you do land it. When I hit a Little Mac with me Brawler Feint Jump at like 150 and he could still recover, I knew this spike was dead to me. Me Sword Fighter up B goes way too comically high for it to be any good at sniping recoveries. Not only that, but it's weak as hell and doesn't even connect into the spike hitbox reliably. This shit ass! This move might actually be the worst down air in the game, period. First of all, just look at the animation. These chicken legs are not intimidating at all. Then you see the hitbox, and yup, you were right in assuming there's no threat here. Absolutely pathetic move. Banjo takes the cake for the second shittiest down air. Pretty much same thing as Ridley, but at least it has a better hitbox, I guess. If you want a spike that simply boops you, take this move. If you want the good spike, look literally almost anywhere else. I hate how Diddy side B is considered a spike, because it's definitely not. Like, yeah, sure, it sends you downwards, but also at the speed of a feather and has 0 juice meter to it. Bad spike. Previously the worst up B spike on a traditional character before Pyra came along. This spike is not only incredibly weak, but also not even consistent in landing, so yup, it sucks. Next we got the mid spikes. Spikes that exist and will send you downwards, but it's not going to be something you see often from this character. Plant down air is the second worst traditional spike down air in the game. Just for some reason it's incredibly hard to spike with this move. Like the hitbox doesn't even look that bad, but I guess plant is just destined to be mid. Another spike that is deceptively hard to land is Inkling down air. Wow, this move is garbage. Inkling has so many fast moves, so the fact that down air takes 10 years to come out while also having a shitty hitbox just makes this move not good. Me Gunner down air is basically a slightly slower version of Inkling down air, but also slightly stronger, I guess, so you can chill here. I feel like you really only land Falco's side B by accident. It's too weak to style with for the most part. Like sure, you got a semi-respected offstage, but I've always viewed it as Falco trying to compensate for something. All final smashes are in this tier. When you do land them, they're hype, but a majority of them only work with a big ass hole in the middle where there's only like 3 stages this will work in. After further investigation, I have found this is not true. Bridge of Elden, Midgar, and Gar Plains all have big ass holes in the middle, but the final smash just kind of skirts around it and ignores it. So you do in fact need a cringe custom stage in order to ever see the spike. Great design. Honorable mentions to Ganon for being the best one since you don't need the hole, and dishonorable mention to Cloud for dying first when he lands it. DK side B is definitely my least favorite DK spike. I barely even remember its existence. It's great for when you truly want to let your opponents know they mean absolutely nothing to you.
Trash.
But for the most part, it doesn't even feel that good to land, so... The fact you can 2-frame with Ridley's up B and not die is the reason it's not lower. You can only really use it while waiting at the ledge here since it takes a second for it to come out, but if it does, it'll murder, so yeah, it's good here. The Bowser Bomb can not only break your shield, but spike the shit out of you if you jump too much. Pretty satisfying to land, but not worth it when it takes 10 years for the hitbox to come out and only lasts for like 2 frames. The actual spike portion for this move takes 10 million years to come out, and you basically have to SD going for it. However, its only saving grace is that it's kinda Chad as fuck if you land it. Richter and Simon's down there are pretty okay as a spike. You know, feels more satisfying that you get to recover than actually landing the spike. Shows you got balls and you get to live for it, so a pretty fair deal, I'd say. This is actually a good segue into mentioning that SD down airs are incredibly annoying, frustrating spikes to have. Yeah, they can make a clip saucier, but 9 times out of 10 you want the spike that doesn't kill you too. Especially since it becomes useless if you're down to stock. A lot of them are very similar, so here's my least favorite to most favorite. Corrin down air, Bayo down air, Sheik down air, Min Min down air, Toon Link down air, Sephiroth down air. If you haven't guessed by now, I hate SD down airs, but this one is the most worth to go for. The fact that it spikes the whole way through makes it the gold standard for all the kicks. Me Brawler head-on assault has the same idea but goes straight down, and so it's a bit easier to land at least. Game & Watch down air, Greninja down air, Greninja down B, and Sonic down air. You can all live if you go for off stage for the most part, so it makes it a little bit better, but overall still whack. Bowser down air got the most oomph to it, so I leave it here at the top. This move feels like an accident when you land it. Nana is the only one that spikes, so if she dies, GG's, no more spikes allowed, and if she's alive, she probably won't land it anyway, because Popo is a greedy motherfucker. I feel like Incineroar up B is definitely one of the weaker up Bs that drag you down. Not in the sense of strength, since it, you know, kills at 0, but more so that it can be hella inconsistent for some reason. I have no idea when this move will work or not, and so I can't quite see it as a reliable POW. Next we got the acceptable tier, where the spikes start being things you'd go for. Not necessarily your first option, but it'll do the job. The devs really went all out in making Duck Hunt as lame as possible. This down air spike is not it. Might be strong enough, but why the hell they make it a 2-parter? Inconsistency is the devil, and for that reason, I'm out. I forget that Shulk has a spike because this move is so ass to land. Another 2-parter, and it's so tough to use consistently. I guess it's strong, but it takes centuries to come out, and overall, not that great. Robin up B is another one of those spikes that just exist for some reason, but no one actually goes for. It offers decent style points, but it's harder to land than you'd think. And given Robin has limited book juice and can't even use it all the time, makes it mid. Wii Fit forward air is the kind of spike that makes it impossible to not yell, "Got him!" if you spike people with it. It's weak, and isn't out for too long, but nifty enough to be here. Me Sword Fighter down air feels more like a drag down than a spike. It's good for what it does, but there's definitely no oomph to it or swag meter, just me Sword Fighter spinning on top of you, which is just more disturbing than anything. Pit and Dark Pit down air definitely have one of the most embarrassing down airs that are actually meant to spike. Not strong at all, and I'm kinda glad since the pits can come back from anywhere, so if they can spike from anywhere, it'll make it kinda busted. So yeah, not good for a reason. I really don't like this spike too much on Chrom, if I'm being honest. I get the sour spot way too much with it, and what's worse is that shit sends upwards, so it saves them instead of getting spiked. Ike down air is pretty much the same as Chrom's, can be a good Hail Mary, but overall, not the best spike. Roy's down air, similar to Ike and Chrom, but it's on fire, so it makes it a little cooler. Kazuya's nair is not too strong, but at least it's pretty fast. You know, it just kinda does its thing. At least you get the flex that you got the only neutral air in the game that spikes. I personally hate Rob down air, as good as other people say it is. The delay in when the spike comes out messes with my timing so much. No other spike has this weird ass animation, it just feels so clunky. Me Gunner up B is a decent up B spike. It's good for reversals and strong enough that it does a good job. RNG? In my spikes? Kinda cringe. While all 3 variations do spike, I value a spike with a consistent hitbox the most. Even with Monique attached, I just don't feel the oomph from Olimar's down air. It just feels so flimsy, which is the opposite of what you want when dealing with a spike. You want that feeling of power and decisiveness, which Olimar doesn't quite deliver. Isabel's down air is more consistent than Villagers since it's always 2 turnips, nothing crazy. Doesn't have much oomph to it since it's Isabel. You know, she doesn't want to hurt you too badly. Why this move spikes, I have no idea. I kinda hate it since the ball can get in the way sometimes, and so you gotta preemptively time it, but also it gives you crazy style points to land. Decent enough. And here we have ZSS down B. Hot take, I know, probably because I suck at this character, but I feel like ZSS down B is way too hard to land for casuals like me. Yes, even with the setups and the guides, blah blah, I ain't got time to research this. Like, look at the size of the spike hitbox and tell me it's not a little strict. I don't like this spike, I'm leaving it here. Falcon up tilt is the OG spike that you can use on stage and hope for the best. It's decently strong and there's not much downside to using it if your opponent is chilling at the ledge. You probably won't land it too often, but if you do, it always feels nice as hell. Now we're in the good tier. These spikes are good. I enjoy the fact that these characters have these spikes. Might not be the swaggiest, but respectable nonetheless. Wolf down air is flashy looking, but I never felt much oomph from it considering side B exists. Knowing that, it just makes this feel like the secondary spike to want to go for. This move always fucked me up visually. I still cannot process in real time the fact that it's her leg that spikes, and not her staff. Anyway, good move, but nothing spicy, just another bunk. Ken down air, Ryu down air, Terry down air. These three all have pretty much the same down air, with Ken and Ryu's actually being the exact same. It doesn't have much range, but it's a fast move and works well in these fellas' kits, so yup, they're here. Wii Fit down air is strong and works well, but I just kinda hate the way it looks. As good of a posture it is, it's also just kinda ugly. I really like the motion of Samus down air. The way Samus just reaches down to smack your ass is pretty funny. It does its job well, so it belongs here in the ranking. Depending on what material Steve got, this can either be cringe or quite nutworthy. Overall, I'm not the biggest fan of it because it has a pretty awkward range of motion, but I can't deny that it's pretty good. Hot take? Rosa's down air is a pretty nice spike to land. It's like a shot of ginger compared to the other savage spikes. It's a nice little halo effect that isn't too strong, but it's pretty big and it gimps pretty effectively. The gimmick works well for her, and so Rosa's chilling up here. Terry Power Dunk is a very interesting move. On one hand, people who never played Terry or Shoutouts will probably never land this move since only the input version spikes, making it kinda annoying if you don't play him often. On the other hand, it connects frustratingly well from a forward tilt, and if you position yourself, you can surprise your opponent at the ledge. Also bonus points for having one of the most unique trajectories in the game. I think it belongs here. This move is pretty hard to land, but when you do, it's pretty worth it. The only back air in the game that could spike for 2 entries in a row, this is still a very unique spike that definitely gives Lucas a boost for neatness factor. Arsene down air is a really strong move, but I don't really like how it's a 2-parter. This creates infinitely more chances of failure. Don't get me wrong, it's good and strong as hell, but like I've been saying, consistency is king, and so that's why it's not higher. I feel like I rarely ever spike with Charizard because that's Ivysaur's job, but the down air Charizard has is pretty baller. The singular foot stomp looks a little goofy, but it's powerful and feels super satisfying to land. Similar to Charizard down air, but Mewtwo's reach is way lower and has a cool effect going on, so he gets brownie points here. Luigi down air isn't too strong, but it feels perfect for Luigi. It does its job well and makes Luigi do a cool spinny move, so yep, props. Falco Dare is also a pretty cool spinny move. Not the strongest, but quick enough and works great on Falco. Bayo down smash is one of the sickest looking spikes in the game. Very, very situational. You're never gonna hit anyone that's literally not in this zone right here, but at least it's low commitment and feels good as hell to land. Kazuya down smash is the same idea as Bayo's, and while less aesthetically pleasing and has smaller range, the sound effect it has and being able to see your opponent just incinerate in front of your eyes puts this one above. Diddy Kong down air, but cringe because it's on a me. Down air that's cool because it's on a monkey. This swing downward with all his might makes it actually one of the strongest down airs in the game too, so overall, very solid move. Mega Man's down air is really interesting, one of the most unique spiky moves in the game. Doesn't feel particularly spicy to land, but the fact it's a f you message from above makes it that much better. Yoshi's forward air is like Mario forward air, but Yoshi uses his fucking head instead of his fist for some reason. It's a pretty solid spike, kind of underrated I feel since the range is good, and Yoshi has stupid air mobility, so it makes it easy to land. King DDD down air is a classic spike that's pretty strong, but is slow. I feel like I hit the sour spot more often than not with this move, but all things considered, it feels kinda nice to land, and isn't hard enough that it does well here. The toes are powerful on down air. K-Rool has deceivingly long range because of them. The move is strong and pretty fast considering K-Rool does the fastest flip you've ever seen in your fucking life in order to land it. Now we move on to the great tier. These are either really clutch ass spikes to have or something I will always go for when I play these characters. Luigi's downtown is admittedly iconic and dank as hell, but let's be real, it kinda sucks. 45 frames of startup and is only active for 1 frame, but the iconic sound effect it comes with and the hilarity factor definitely makes up for it. I feel quite skillful when landing this move, as I always do so on purpose as well. The fact I can combo from up B2 is hilarious. It spikes the whole way through and can clutch the fuck out of some games. It has its charm, so it goes here. Chrome's up B is the same dealio as Ike, just looks a little cleaner because Chrome's sword is shinier. As much as I think the Mii's are cringe, I admittedly think Mii Brawler's soaring axe kick is better than the other past two because of how fast it is, and that the spiking hitbox is surprisingly more generous here. I like Climb Hazard the most out of the spiking of these. Not only is it the cleanest looking, but it actually feels like a spike as opposed to a drag down. While this is one of my favorite Ganon moves to land, it's just unfortunately too impractical for it to be much higher. But don't get me wrong, the juice level of this move goes fucking hard. Robin Dare is an underrated spike. Not the freest to land, but the juice factor from the Levin sword is actually kinda nice. If we consider it alone without the existence of Baby Sword, it's a pretty great spike. But unfortunately, since we can't always land with it, it's a bit lower than otherwise it might be. Pichu and Pikachu Thunder are strong as hell and such an interesting mechanic. The spike itself isn't too easy to land though, and I don't mean the actual cloud portion. 9 times out of 10, it connects to Pikachu and Pichu as intended, so it's not the easiest to land, but when it does, it's pretty much over. I didn't like Zelda's down air as much initially because the sweet spot is legit 1 frame, but once you get used to Zelda's forward air and back air, it's not so bad. Besides, at least the sour spot also sends downward, so you can still get the job done if you don't destroy them with the sweet spot. The Link down air spike is one you must have certainty to land, since if you run off down air, you'll die, but if you land it, you'll live. Do you got what it takes to go for it? I use Hero down air all the time, but damn, this shit is actually strong as hell. Satisfying to land and looks like an upside down, useful version of up smash. This and Pichu Spike are the only spikes with an electric property, so it's pretty sick. Kinda bullshit that it is a ground hitbox, but this is a spike video, so I will refrain from unnecessary hostilities. It's good, it's satisfying, it's strong, yeah, this kinda has everything you want in a spike. This spike is like Pikachu's, but it's stronger and hurts you a little bit, and also it has a grounded hitbox. All I can think of when landing Lucina's down air is I nailed a 1 frame window, and it makes me feel kinda crazy. Satisfying, strong, I'm not biased, the only thing that sucks is that it's hard to hit, but it kinda makes it more rewarding every time you do. There's something about Nest down air that I can't quite put my fingers on, but that shit is mad nice to land. It's like an orb of death and destruction on the tip of this man's Converses. It's a good spike. This kind of spike where Cloud just thrashes a big sword in front of him is not only hysterical, but also cool as shit. The range and power it has is great, and it's pretty clear where the spike hitbox is meant to be. Good spike. The K-Rool back air is strong as hell and doesn't have too much startup lag. One of the only back airs that spikes, and it's much juicier than Lucas's, so yup. New king in town, baby. This move has reversal cheesed me probably more than any other move in the game. This shit kills at like 7% for some reason, and doesn't even need to be used on purpose. You can just use it to want to recover, and boop, you're dead. However, we're considering it only from our perspective, and so we have no sympathy from our opponents, which is why it's pretty high up here. Cloud's down air is like they took Link's down air, but made it kinda sexy. Landing it is so satisfying. The big sound effect is one of the most beautifully designed sounds in the game. Though it can be hard to land since most time you'll die from it, at least you can kind of do this motion and hope for the best. DK's forward air is strong as hell and has a lot of range. Although it's kind of slow, the fact you can combo it from like a dash attack at 30 and kill from it is pretty hilarious. Also feels satisfying as hell to land. This movement DK does makes it seem like the ultimate bonking tool. Next we have the amazing tier where these spikes are phenomenal. Every character can benefit from either having the spike or it will increase their swag meter tenfold. This move kinda cheats. You can just throw it out and if you get caught by at least one of the hits, it'll connect into the final one and spike you. Not too strong, but the fact it's so active is what makes it bullshit and pretty great overall. BYLETH's up B spike is kinda cracked. The only reason this move is so high is because the amount of times I snatched some ass and spiked the shit out of my opponents by accident because I was trying to desperately get back to stage is much higher than it should be. The idea of a move that stretches out to grab you and physically drag you down is the coolest fucking concept as well. I think this spike is sick. After the buffs, this move became a staple in the spikes game. Those legs actually murder now. And consistently too. Big range, big hit, this Incineroar spike is one that I actually like going for. This is Donkey Kong's best spike for a reason. The move has a deceiving amount of range and it comes out quick as hell. Like DK might have other flashier spikes, but at the end of the day, this one is old reliable. There are some moves that I think about how much it would get sucked to hit by in real life, and BYLETH down air is definitely one of them. The strength she throws down that meat hammer at is astounding and is one of my favorite spikes to land, even if it is a little slow, since the oomph it has way more than makes up for it. Dr. Mario's down air is nothing crazy animation-wise, just, you know, Mario's little stubby limbs going for a stretch. However, the move is strong as hell and quick enough that Dr. Mario out of all characters can run off and do it. Easily one of the best additions to Smash Ultimate. Donkey Kong uses both his arms to spike, Cloud uses his Buster Sword, Snake uses a single leg, the same one that up tilts your ass to the heavens. I love the range this move has and how it spikes the whole way through, and the fact it's incredibly strong makes up for the fact it's a bit on the slower side. Overall, very swag. Probably my favorite DK spike. Down B in the air has a spike hitbox throughout the entire thing, so if you land it, you are gifted a spike. Bonus points too for just having one of the rawest animations in the game. Wolf side B is very situational, but it is one of the most badass spikes you can go for. The fact it murders so early while also being able to murder you makes it a careful tool for styling the shit out of your opponents. Badass, feels like crack to land, what more could you want? And don't answer living. The legend itself, the Mario forward aerial is as satisfying as ever. I think it's the fact that Mario is literally punching you and telling you to get the f down is what makes it great. The big Mario fist also for some reason has one of the crunchiest sound effects in the game. And it's not always free to go for, you know? Like you can definitely die if you mistime the move, so it's a weapon you must earn the right to use. And finally, the goated tier. Some of these next spikes are legally obligated to be up here because they are too broken and stupid and free. Some of them are here because I really like them. Feel free to guess which is which. I don't have much time in this video left, fellas, so I'll let this image of Ivysaur's down air hitbox speak for itself. You should not be surprised Pirate down air is up here. It's actually stupid. Just looking at the hitbox makes me mad. There's so many times when I think, that's spiked? Even when I'm playing this character, it's just something else. This Kirby move is asshole incarnate. I hate it. It's one of the biggest reasons I despise Kirby, because why would they give such a long-lasting spike on a character with 6 jumps? Out of all these characters that have more than one double jump, maybe 3 have above average spikes. Because you know, that sounds balanced. But Kirby didn't get the fucking memo, does what he wants, and I just legally can't put him anywhere below top tier as much as I hate this move. Come on, you knew this was going to be up here. Not only is it one of the strongest spikes in the game, but one of the juiciest as well. That effect of pure power that Ganon conjures up when he lands the move is half the reason you'd main this character. It's like the world stops moving for a fraction of a second when you land it too, which just ups the oomph factor exponentially. Top tier spike free. And finally, we have the most goated spike in the game, the Falcon Stomp. It's too iconic, it's just way too gratifying for how simple it is. A swift motion of Falcon driving his legs downwards and ending your soul. It's fast, the timing is incredibly straightforward, it's consistent, it feels great, what's not to love? Yeah, it might be vanilla compared to the other spikes we've seen, but honestly, it's what all spikes should strive for. And that's it, fellas. Every spike in the game. This took me far too long, so if you liked what you saw, feel free to give it a like and let me know what you agreed or disagreed with down below. For now, though, I'll catch you guys later. See ya!